along to everybody. I'm Barry from Education in Ireland. We're hosting this event. We promote Ireland for higher education, undergraduate and postgraduate. Just to say, this will be specifically all about studying for your visa. We did a session yesterday all around accommodation. We had an Instagram live with University Living. So if anyone didn't catch that, I would just say you can see that the recording is uploaded. My colleague Anam had a chat with Sura from University Living. You will find us on Edu Ireland India, EDU Ireland India. So just to flag that. Now I'll hand over to Karbra here from the visa office in New Delhi. He'll talk through the process, and this applies for students in India, but in the wider region as well, Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. The presentation is very clear, so you should have a lot of questions answered, and we will share the slides and we will share the recording as well with you after the event. But there is a chance to ask any questions that you have. We will get to as many as we can, and we'll get to the most relevant we can for the wider group that's tuning in. So again, sorry for the slight delay to get started, but I'll hand over now to Karbra to take us through the slides. Thanks, Karbra. Karbra, are you muted? We can't hear you.
Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi guys, I'm not sure if I'm presenting it, but I can't hear any other audio.
We can hear you, Karbra.
Okay, so sorry about that. A few gremlins in the system here, difficulties logging in, but hopefully everyone in attendance can hear me now. I'll just give some instructions to Judith to move the presentation on as we go forward, and there'll hopefully be some time for any questions afterwards. So my name is Karbra O'Farrell. I'm head of the Visa and Immigration section of the embassy here in New Delhi. We look after India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and the Maldives as well. So very busy workload with the students. We take in around about 40% of the student visa applications every year. So it's extremely busy, but hopefully this presentation will be a bit educational for you to kind of let you know what to do, what not to do. And as I say, we might have a few questions later. So the introduction that we have on screen here at the minute, it just gives you an idea of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little about the student information leaflet and the study visa checklist, which are just kind of summary documents trying to guide you through the process. We'll then just talk a little bit about the process itself, how to apply for your visa, document submission and the payment, also when to apply. And I'll just give you a bit of information about what a good applicant kind of looks like to give you a flavour of what you should be doing, I suppose. We'll then just talk about financial requirements, because that tends to be one of the main questions we get asked. And we'll just talk about a few final reminders and important points at the end. So if you could just move it on, Judith. And again, the first section here, we'll talk about the student information leaflet. So this was developed 2 years ago, just tried to give applicants a summary document, a 2-page summary document, trying to guide you on the main process. The student visa system is not complex, but there's some detail to it compared to applying for a visitor visa. So it's very hard to summarize that over a short presentation like this or over a section on the website, because there is a little bit of detail that you need to read. So the point of this document is to provide a summary and to give you the links and URLs to more detailed information that you really should be reading before making your application. It also includes, just at the bottom corner, something that you may need to contact us at some point. So if you could move it on again, Judith. So the second, again, sorry, I should have said the checklist and the information leaflet are available on our website. So if you go to the Irish Embassy in New Delhi website, just Google that if you need to. Go to the services, the visa pages, and then there's a section on types of documents and types of visas and documents, and you'll find it all there. There's also a section about student visas on the main page as well, which will direct you towards this information. So the second page here that we're talking about is the study checklist. So this is the checklist of documents that you need to supply to VFS or supply to the embassy if you're not applying through VFS. And it gives you some, again, the document gives you some additional links to put more detailed information in case you need that. On the right-hand side of the checklist as well, there's a section which is marked for official use only, and it's for what we call the LidPro container column, and that is for the online system for your scanned documentation, which is used by VFS to organize your documentation. The reason that column is important to the applicant is it's a good way of actually trying to organize your documents. So if you can organize documents under those headings, it will make it easier for you at the Visa Application Center, and it will also make it easier for us to assess your application as well. So we can just move on to the next slide. And again, Judith. So this is just a quick overview about how to apply. So the visa application process, like all other embassies, we have a online platform for creating your visa application. It's called AVATS for Ireland. So you basically log on to the link, you create your application, you fill in the application form. Once that's done, you finally print it off and you sign it, and that is basically your first document that you need to submit with your application. If you're applying from India or Nepal, where we have VFS operations, then you will have to arrange for a VFS appointment, and that is where you then lodge your documents to. When you're booking your appointment, you will also pay the fees. That's both the VFS fees and your visa application fees, and they're paid online. If you're in Nepal, you'll basically pay by bank draft. You can talk to Kathmandu VFS as well if you have any queries on that. You then submit compile your supporting documentation, and you submit your documents. If you go in applying through VFS, you will also have to give biometrics if you're in India. You don't provide biometrics in Nepal. Just to confirm, if you're applying from Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, you pay your fee by sending the bank draft to ourselves here in New Delhi. Sri Lankan nationals don't pay visa fees, so they basically just pay at the lodge at the honorary consul. We'll talk about the submission processes now in a second. So again, this information is all highlighted under the Studying in Ireland information, student information leaflet, and it's all noted on our website as well. So if you're not fully understanding this here, you just need to have a look at our website afterwards, and hopefully everything is laid out for you there. So if you just go to the next website, next webpage, and if you just hit 4 clicks, yep, and that's it. Thanks, Judith. So this is just give you an idea of the document submission and payment methods for the country of residency. So visa application processes are dictated by the country of residency, not the country of your nationality. So if you're a Nepalese individual living in India, then you will submit through the Indian process, not the Nepalese process listed here. So for India, we'll take it on the left. You submit at your regional VFS center. The payment for your visa application is made when you're booking your VFS appointment. Your paperwork is brought to the VFS center and it's then scanned, digitally scanned, and the physical paperwork is then handed back to you. We only get the application form and the passport. And then finally, once a decision is made, your passport with the visa, if it's successful, is returned through the VFS network. Nepal is similar but slightly different. You submit at VFS Kathmandu. Payment is actually made in Indian rupee bank draft made out to the Embassy of Ireland. So you need to submit an Indian rupee bank draft. The paperwork is scanned at the VFS center, and again, your originals are returned to you. And then finally, the passport is again returned through the VFS network. This is where it starts to move slightly or considerably away from the VFS process, as we don't have VFS contracts currently in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. So for individuals applying who are resident in Sri Lanka and making their applications, you actually apply at our honorary consulate in Colombo. So you apply in person, or a third party can submit for you. You have to pay an admin charge, administrative charge to the consulate. No visa fees are required for Sri Lankan nationals. Now, if you're an Indian national who's resident from Sri Lanka, you will have to pay visa fees. Only Sri Lankan nationals are exempt from visa fees. Your passport is submitted to the honorary consul when you're making your application. They basically check the passport and hand it back to you. We don't receive the physical passport. The paperwork is then posted by the honorary consul to us in Delhi. We make an application, we make a decision on your application. If we approve it, the consulate in Colombo then print the visa for you. So you'll be contacted by the consulate. You'll come back in to the consulate and hand in your passport and basically wait within 10 or 15 minutes, your visa will be printed and inserted. For Bangladesh, unfortunately, we've only just established an honorary consul, so we don't have a full established process yet. So for residents of Bangladesh, you have to actually submit by post to the embassy. So you have to post your documents to us here in Delhi, or you can travel or arrange for a third party to submit your application at VFS Kolkata. Payment again is made by Indian rupee bank draft made out to the Embassy of Ireland. Again, the paperwork is posted to us for a decision. Even if you apply at the VFS Kolkata, the documents we post to us, some of your originals will be returned at that point. And finally, if the visa is approved, your passport will be returned through the VFS network, through VFS Delhi or VFS Kolkata if you submit through them. So if we could just move to the next page. Thanks, Judith. So now just a short note on when to apply. So we always advise people to try and apply as soon as possible. Our visa processing times are listed online. For student visas, it's usually within 20 to 30 working days. The processing time will kind of increase or decrease depending on demand. So we always advise people to apply early. A lot of this will be in relation to VFS. About 97% of our applications are submitted through the VFS network, so most of this is very valid to most of our students. So when you're making your application your VFS, the visa processing times that are listed online don't include document transit times, and they don't include the time it takes to secure an appointment. At the busiest time of the year, it may take you 7 to 10, maybe longer than that to secure an appointment. So this is why we always say apply as soon as possible. So once lodged to at your VFS appointment, the documents also must transit. So if you're applying from Mumbai, Kolkata, it takes 2 days to get the documents to us. From Kerala, it takes 4 to 6 working days to get to us. And obviously those transit times work on the other way as well. So that has to be included into your overall processing time. As I say, the processing times listed on our website refer to the time it takes to get a decision once we activate an application here in the embassy. So once we receive it here in the embassy. So again, don't wait to the last minute. We are receiving we're receiving applications already for September intake. So if you have your documents, go and secure your VFS appointment or post your documents to us. Don't leave it too late. We don't accept applications if they're submitted and received in the embassy within 3 weeks of this course started. We are permitted to return those applications unprocessed. So we try to discourage any late applicants. You need to apply to us as soon as possible. And again, the important thing is the responsibility is on you, the applicant, to do that, okay? So if we just move to the next screen. And there's just 5 points underneath that, and that's it. Thanks, Judith. So again, we'll talk about what does good applicant look like. first of all, these are important and relevant to the visa decision as well. Some cases are refused purely due to the fact that the applicant, or it's likely due to the fact that the applicant is just not organized themselves. They have left out important documents, they haven't made certain things clear, they've left it too late. So it's important to understand what we look for when we're processing applications. So the first thing is that we kind of expect applicants to be informed. Vast majority of the students are all going to master level degree in Ireland, so we expect a high degree of intelligence and organisation from our visa applicants. We also expect, the applicants to talk for themselves. Don't put too much trust in educational agents. What we kind of want to see here is we want to see the original voice of the applicant. If you're submitting a statement of purpose explaining why you're going to Ireland, there's no point in sending us a 5-6 page document that's very obviously constructed by or composed by an agent. We want to hear you speak from yourself. So we want to see statements of purpose in your own words, because we do interview applicants randomly. So we want to see things in your own words. So we want you to be informed. We want you to be able to inform us why you're selecting Ireland, why the course is important to you, what will your learning outcomes be, etc., etc. Second thing is we want applicants to be exact in their application. So we want them to be very specific and give us the documents that we actually seek. So it's important for you to read the checklist and gather all the documents that you're actually required to submit. We also want to be punctual, as I discussed in the previous slide. We need you to secure your appointments as soon as possible and apply in good time. We receive almost 12,000 visa applications last year. That's per capita, by far the highest in the EU. So we're an incredibly busy office, and what we want to do is to try to smooth that curve. And rather than having huge volumes of people apply all together at the last minute, try to get applications in as soon as possible so we can kind of flatten that curve and more people can get their decisions made on time. Also, we want people to be organized, obviously. So when you're in your visa application center or when you're submitting your applications to the honorary consul in Sri Lanka or by paper to ourselves here in Delhi, be organized in the documentation. It's good to segregate your documents. We don't want to submit with plastic cover sheets. We don't want any plastic, but we do appreciate when the documents are submitted and segregated and organized. The checklists have a column about what's called the LibPro container, which is the e-document solution that we use. But that will also give you a guide about what documents need to be organized together. So that's a good indicator for you when you're going to the visa application center to try to organize your documents. BFS staff will try to organize you as well, but it is your responsibility to get organized. Sometimes we see issues with an applicant submits 70 pages of unnecessary financial documents, unnecessary property documents and things like that. And in the middle of those documents is an educational document that's very important to our decision making. And that is just lost in a plethora of incorrect documents. So it's important that you organize yourself in the visa application center or when you're sending your documents to us. Finally, what we expect people to be is patient. It does take time to get the visa. It's about 20 to 30 working days. That's in line generally with our European counterparts. But at certain points of the year, when we get to the August, like late July into early August, we receive a lot of late applicants, and if you're in that batch, you're subject to additional delays, which may impact on whether we can issue the visa in time for your course start date. So it's extremely important that you try to avoid the rush and try to apply early. Okay, so if you just move to the next slide, Judith. And I think again, there's 6 points in this one, I think. Yeah. Perfect. So again, we'll just talk quickly about the financial requirements, as I know a lot of the students will ask about what are the financial requirements. Can you explain X, Y, and Z? Can I submit this? Can I submit something else? We do have different financial requirements to Germany, to the UK, to Canada, to the US. Well, probably more in line with Canada, but there are differences. So the first thing is you must qualify financially for a student visa without a dependency on part-time work in Ireland. We do understand that a lot, probably the majority of students do find part-time work in Ireland, but you must have the finances to finance yourself in the event that you don't find part-time work. So we will be looking for you to qualify for your financial criteria without the assumption that you will get work. So you must show access to required finances for both course fees and cost of living. So you don't have to have all your course fees paid at visa application stage. If you don't, then we have to see that in your finances you also have access to the whatever is left over, the remaining amount of course fees on top of your cost of living expenses. So for your course fees, if they're under 6,000, then you must pay in full. Very few course fees are under 6,000 euro. If your course fees are over 6,000 euro, which is most courses, then you have to pay at least 6,000 euro at visa application stage. Obviously, when you're arriving at the education provider will tell you on when you have to have full course fees paid, but for the purposes of the visa, if your course fees are over 6,000 euro, then you only have to pay 6,000 at the point of visa application. However, if your course fees are 12,000 euro in total, then we will be looking to see if that 6,000 euro shortfall is there in your finances on top of your cost of living finances. So your cost of living finances in Ireland are currently 10,000 euro per year. Sometimes your education provider will advise you to have more than that. Sometimes their letters will indicate 12,000, 14,000. That is an indication from your healthcare provider based on inflation rates and increased costs of living in Ireland. However, for immigration purposes and the visa purposes, the threshold is currently 10,000 euro a year. So that's what we will be assessing. For multi-year courses, this is important. Again, most are traveling for one-year courses, but if you're traveling for a multi-year course, on top of having immediate access to the first year finances, both fees and cost of living, you also have to show ready access, what we call ready access to fees and cost of living expenses for the subsequent years. Ready access means that not that you have it immediately at the time of visa application, but you have evidence to show that those finances will be available to you when you need them in future. So the visa officer has to be confident that yes, you as an individual will have access to an additional 10,000 or 20,000 euro, including fees for year 2, for year 3, for year 4, whenever it's needed. That can be evidenced by educational loans, savings, fixed deposits, projected earnings for your sponsors, not projected earnings for yourself working in Ireland. That cannot be considered, but projected earnings for your sponsors. So their income, their ITRs showing high level income over the next few years, that can be considered as evidence of ready access future funding. The one thing we just need to be clear about is we don't accept mutual funds, crypto funds, chit funds, or any market-linked savings. So if your savings are linked to any market rates, meaning that they can be lost, we won't accept them. Okay? So if you just move to the next sheet, Judith. And again, this is just linked to the finances. One of the documents that we require you to submit is what we call the financial summary form. This document is available on the Irish immigration website, and it basically summarizes your finances and your sponsorship and any other additional information like sponsors. The idea behind it is that it tries to help the applicant organize themselves and organize their own funds by giving them information on what they need and then asking them to insert what they have and then assessing is what they have as per what we need. So are they linked together? So it's a way of organizing the applicant themselves. It also is a great organization tool for us, the visa officers, because at times applicants can have multiple income streams or multiple sponsorship streams. And by having a document summarizing the information like this, it allows us to more efficiently assess whether the applicant has those documents. Obviously, any sponsorship, you will still need to submit the evidence of those finances, such as bank statements, ITRs, all that kind of stuff. But this document basically helps us organize you, and that helps us then organize ourselves as decision makers, so that we can see where the income is coming from, and then look for the appropriate documents in your financial evidence. So if we just move on to the next screen, Judith, and it's 8 points. There's 8 points in this. Thank you very much. So this is just a final reminder. So I know you're probably going to have some questions, and I would ask you maybe before having those questions is to have a read of our student information leaflet and have a read of the checklist and have a read of our website as well, as they will answer a lot of your questions. But we are here for questions, and we do have an inbox for questions. But it's important with the inbox that it is for queries that are not answered online. We don't respond to queries about how do I make an application, how much money do I need. That information is easily accessible on our website and on Irish immigration website. So we just won't respond to questions like that. However, if you have a specific complex query, absolutely we'll respond to that. So just a few reminders before we finish up. Again, as I say, it's important to read all the information. Most people here are going for master level degrees. So we expect a level of intelligence and a level of organization from our applicants. So the information is posted online to help you, and by helping you, it helps us. It's important that you provide all the required paperwork. So the requirements are set out in the checklist and set out in the student information leaflet. It's important that you read that and supply those documents. We can refuse visas for insufficient documentation. It's a waste if you have those documents and haven't submitted them. It's a waste of everyone's time. It's important to provide clear and concise financial information. The more obscure and divided and segregated your financial sponsorship is, the more complex you're making your application, the more the increase in the likelihood of a refusal. If you have multiple financial streams backing, can you liquidate those finances into your own bank account, into your sponsor's bank account? And then just simply explain, if there's a high volume lump sum transfer, you just need to explain what that transfer was, where did it come from. But it's best to try to get your finances in order and in the most simplistic fashion as possible. A warning that just a paper cannot be submitted at a later stage. If you submit your documents, we won't really entertain thousands of emails saying, I forgot to submit this, I forgot to submit that. We don't have the time for it. We will be making a decision. Unless you're asked for additional information by a visa officer, additional information submitted afterwards won't be considered. However, if you are asked for a document by a visa officer, by all means, you can submit that document. It's important that you don't provide any false or misleading information. And this kind of goes back to, again, what I said about statement of purposes, talking to us about why you're interested in the course. Don't trust visa agents and specifically nefarious visa agents. We expect you to understand the process yourselves online. We do have problems with fraudulent documents and fraudulent visa agents operating. The visa application process is a relatively simple process, so we expect you to be able to do it. Of course, there are visa consultants, and go to visa consultants, but go to reputable consultants. You should be able to see from Education in Ireland, from your education agent, that they will recommend various agents. Go to these agents by all means, and avoid agents who are not recommended. We have had issues of applicants having sub-agents, so going to one agent and then being told to go to another agent. This can be problematic, so I try to avoid that. Only speak to trusted agents, and again, talk to your education provider in Ireland about that. If you do provide false or misleading information, you could be subject to a ban, a visa ban. In relation to whether you should apply for a single entry visa or whether you should apply for a multiple entry visa, there are different costs. It's 5,300 for Indian rupees for a single, 9,000 for a multiple entry. We recommend that you apply for a multiple entry on the basis that when you arrive in Ireland on a single entry visa to reside in Ireland, you're required to register your immigration permission. That means that you have to seek an appointment with the registration office in Dublin or in a Garda office outside of Dublin. And at which point you then apply for your residence permit, and you're then issued with a physical residence permit that allows you to come and go. There are delays at the minute in Ireland with securing those appointments. So by having a multiple entry visa, it means that we usually issue visas for 6-month multiple entry. That would mean that in the event that you don't secure your residence permit, you will have a valid visa that will allow you to come and go from Ireland until the expiry of that visa. By the time that visa expires, you should definitely have your IRP in place, your Irish residence permit in place. But if you have a single entry visa and you don't get your residence permit, if you need to leave Ireland for any emergency reasons and you don't have your permit and the single entry visa is finished because you've already entered on it, then you will actually need a second entry visa from India or from Bangladesh, wherever you're from. So we always recommend going for the multiple entry visa because there are delays being reported in Ireland for securing your residence permit, unfortunately. Second last reminder is apply online, apply as soon as you can. Don't waste time. We have some issues with people applying to other embassies for other visas, and then they apply to us quite late after a refusal from another embassy. You're in those situations, you're putting yourself in a situation where you may be too late to make your application. So again, organize yourself and apply early. The last point there is, if you're missing documents at VFS, you are entitled, or if you feel that you don't need a certain document, you're entitled to lodge your application without these documents, but you do so at your own risk. So we've had situations before where applicants have come to us saying that they were not permitted to submit their application from VFS because they didn't have some document that they didn't think they were required to submit. VFS will have the checklist of documents at the application center as well, and you will go through and you will check off the documents that you've submitted. So you're required to only submit what's on the checklist. However, if there's a document that is on the checklist that you feel for whatever reason that you don't require because of your circumstances, it is your entitlement to submit that application without it. You will just have to make a note of it on the VFS checklist, and that will be submitted to us as evidence that you were happy to submit without that document. But as I say, so VFS can't turn you away in those circumstances, and we've informed them of this. But you do so, you submit applications without documents at your own risk, okay? So I think that's it in relation to the presentation. Judith, if you want to go to the next screen, I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Our website links is there, and the email address is also there if you want to browse to those sites and take a look at what we need. Received, perhaps to be relayed to us by Education in Ireland. But I'll await instruction.
Cabra, can you hear me? So just bear with us a minute. Thank you all. We're getting a steady stream of questions.
Anna, maybe if you post the question that you were asking in the discussion box.
Should I just post it in the question box on top?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So I've put in my Cabra, if you could see my questions in the chat and you can focus on just those. Can everyone?
Yeah. And if you just want to read out a question and I will give you the answer to it. You know, there's.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ah, perfect. Okay, great. All right. So just to start off simple, can a student apply for a student visa with a conditional offer?
That depends on your college. Your college will be informed, will be aware of whether they have a conditional offer option with ourselves.
Okay, perfect. Is there any deadline to file a visa? I know you've asked everyone to file as soon as possible, but is there any deadline?
Yeah, as per the presentation, we don't accept applications received within 3 weeks of your course start date.
Perfect. There are a lot of questions on family members who are, or actually students who are applying from another country. What would their process be? Will he apply as an Irish student visa from a country like Dubai, having an Indian passport?
The application criteria depends on your, again, as I said in the presentation, it's about your country of residency, not your nationality. Visa requirements are obviously based on your passport, but the processes by which you submit your application are based on your country of residence. So if you're in Dubai, you'll be applying to our embassy in Abu Dhabi, country or not. But there may also be additional documentary requirements based on your country of residence because of various circumstances in those countries. So there may be police clearance certificates that you need or may not need, but you need to go to the Irish embassy who's designated to your country of residence and basically just follow the online advice.
Perfect. Can a student show their father's NPS, which is a national pension scheme, to account for living expenses?
Yeah, the question is whether that pension scheme is going to be withdrawn. If the applicant is going for a one-year master's and is depending on a pension scheme, money in a pension scheme, could that money not be liquidated into an account or an education loan be bought for that with that money? I'm not saying that we wouldn't accept documents like that, but there is a question about whether those funds are accessible if they're locked into a pension fund. So it's better to avoid that question by possibly liquidating your finances or using that money to avail of an educational loan, which would be immediately available to the applicant.
Sure. Now, there are funds that are required to be shared. How many months old funds should an applicant typically show?
So again, that will be on the checklist, and it's usually 6 months. So a visa applicant is required to show 6 months of their own bank statement, and any sponsor is required to show 6 months of their bank statement as well. But even if the visa applicant, the individual applicant, is being sponsored, even if it's 100% sponsorship.
Scenario that the sponsor is living in another country. What sort of documents, financial documents, would it be the same?
Yeah, again, their bank statement will be needed. Their annual income tax returns. Every country will have a revenue department who issues annual income tax returns, same as the ITRs here in India, same as our employment detail summary forms back in Ireland. So you'll need to show if their finances are locked into a bank account, then obviously we need to see the bank account. If the finances are based on their proposed earnings over the future years, if it's for ready access funding over the subsequent years of study, and you're based on their income, then you have to show evidence of that income in the last few years to show that it is going to be carried forward. So again, can that money be transferred back to India and put into your own bank account and then secure it? Maybe that's an easy way of doing it. Again, the big thing in the presentation is make it easy for yourself and make it easy for us, and it will be easy for yourself. But there's no problem having a foreign-based sponsor, but you may be complicated with what documents can they provide. Can we verify those documents that are based outside the country, etc., etc. But we do get foreign-based sponsors. We do accept foreign-based sponsors. No issue with that. But again, just is there a way to simplify things for yourself?
Great. Will applicants be called in for interviews?
Yes and no. Applicants are not called to the embassy for interviews. It's not like the US embassy where every individual applicant is interviewed. However, we do targeted interviews based on circumstances of an application. Problems with the paperwork, you may be called by a visa officer. These calls are usually short in duration, and we just want to assess basically, are you a genuine student? Are you going for the reasons that you state you're going for? Do you know about your course? Can you converse in English to the extent, but they're demonstrated in language on call is not at the same standard, which raises kind of some concerns. We understand applicants can be nervous on call. We understand, as everyone probably in the audience can understand, I have a fairly strong Irish accent, as do our other Irish visa officers. That is all catered for. We take it slow, we take the applicant through it. We want to give visas to people who should be given visas. But yes, we will interview on like a random or circumstantial kind of basis, but most applicants will not be interviewed.
Okay. Now there are a couple of questions that have come in about the duration of getting a study visa, but maybe you could give us an idea if they apply now versus if they apply very late in July or August. How much time would it take to process a visa?
Yeah, like again, we always advise people to apply 6 to 8 weeks in advance, sometimes even 8 to 12 weeks. If it's a bachelor level degree, specifically a bit more time, because there are more considerations with a bachelor degree. There's a higher financial burden. There's more difficulties verifying documentation, specifically documentation outside of India. Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka don't have the online verification platforms that India has, which means we're stuck doing manual verification, which can take more time. So we would always recommend that you apply for any visa, apply kind of 6 weeks in advance if you can. We understand that people can't always do that. The processing time that we post online is a median processing time, meaning it's the midpoint, not the mean average, the median average. So it's if you lined up all the applications side by side from the quickest to the latest, the median is the middle case that will be processed. So usually we advertise the median processing time for students of about 25 working days. That means that 50% of the cases are processed in that time or less. If we look at a 75% quartile processing time, it's probably around 30 days. So 75% of the applications are processed in 30 days or less. So what we're kind of suggesting is that you should look to apply within about 30 to 40 working days. Give yourself that time and you should have your visa back within, if the application is good, no problems with it, documentation is verified, then you should be getting your passport back within, or you should be getting a decision on your visa application within about 20 to 25 working days. Later in the year, when we start going into August, that usually creeps up a little bit to 25 to 30 working days. But again, the earlier you apply, the better.
Okay, so there are also a few questions around who is an acceptable sponsor if it's beyond your parents. Are grandparents okay? Are cousins okay? Is there something that's accepted or not?
No, any sponsor is okay. It's absolutely okay, but the individual has to ask themselves, how much do I want to complicate my application? If you're being sponsored by your cousin, brother's, mother's, aunt, that is very difficult for us to verify, and it also breaks the chain in relation to how strong is this sponsorship. Your parents are there for you. My parents were always there for me, thankfully and luckily. So that bond is very strong, and that financial bond is going to be also very strong. If it is an outside relative who lives in a foreign country and is very distantly related, and you cannot even prove their relationship to you, then questions will be asked about how secure are these funds. So again, if that money is going to be provided to you, can that money be put into your bank account? Can you avail of an education loan with that money? And then just, again, the sponsor, if the sponsor is providing that money, they do need to tell you, they need to be confirmed as a sponsor, and consent needs to be given for their finances. However, if the finances are in a bank account in India, if they're in a education loan, then that makes it easier for us to verify. If they're in a Canadian or American bank account, it makes it very difficult for us to verify, and it makes it very difficult for us to understand whether those funds will actually.
their spouse and children along with them to apply for a student visa? And if there's a dependent, then how much should they be showing in their bank statement?
Yeah, we don't permit dependents on a student visa unless the individual is a PhD student. So only PhD students can take family members with them when applying for a student visa. So if you're not going for PhD level, then unfortunately you have to forget about bringing your spouse. I know the UK had the ability to bring spouses for a master's degree, but as I'm sure most of the audience is aware, that has now been withdrawn because of difficulties they've seen in some of those joint family applications. So unfortunately for Ireland, if you're traveling for a student visa and you're married or you have kids, unfortunately your kids or your spouse cannot apply and travel and live with you in Ireland until such time that you obtain an employment permit and meet various criteria under the employment permit scheme.
Okay. Next, we have, do we need to, so if someone is trying to submit their application forms in a regional language, will they need to translate all the documents in English?
Of course. Absolutely. We don't, the visa officers assessing our applications, we do have regional based local staff who are from regional areas in India and Nepal and some speak Bengali as well. But the job is not on us to translate your documents. You're applying for a visa in Ireland. English language is a requirement. And we are required to verify your documents, so it must be a translation must be provided. Again, information on that is available on the website. So again, I would ask people to before they submit questions of course, ask your questions here today. This is a great opportunity for you. But before asking any questions,
gaps play any sort of role when applying for a student visa?
Potentially, we look at the full spectrum of the visa applicant. We look at the English language certificates. We look at your previous education results. We look at the offer that you have. We look at the course that you're traveling to. We look at your employment. If somebody's perhaps struggled in their previous education but has very high level employment, working at significant companies here in India or Bangladesh or Nepal, obviously that can mitigate against other difficulties. If they're traveling for an English, if their English language results are not particularly great, but are at a qualifying mark, then maybe an interview, and based on the ability of the applicant at the interview, and do they know their course? Can they speak well about the course? Do they know why they're selecting it? That can mitigate against other concerns. So we look at all factors of the application.
Okay, great. Are there any common or main reasons for visa refusal?
Yeah, it's the same in any country. Issues with the finances, issues with the documentation, not being able to verify certain documents, fraudulent documents. We do verify documents, so people need to be aware of that. Applicants not performing particularly well at interview. When we interview applicants and they have no particular understanding of the course they've selected, and they openly discuss on the phone call that they're interested in working in Ireland, obviously that's not what the student visa scheme is for. We issue visas for employment all the time, and there's no problem with someone going to work in Ireland, but it's not really what the student visa scheme is there for. So there are reasons for refusal, a common reason for refusal, but it would be the same as any other embassy. Great.
There are also a couple of questions around PCCs and even bank statements on the validity of these documents. If they're soon to expire after they've submitted these documents, or within a few short weeks.
Yeah, for the PCCs, there's information on the time-bound information on our website, and I will mention that in the student information leaflet as well. Bank statement, so I can understand if somebody has has maybe a previous PCC that they used for applying for a visa to travel somewhere else, and they want to reuse it for the Irish application. That's absolutely fine once it's still valid as per our requirements. And again, as I say, that's in the study information that it's listed there. In relation to bank statements, there's no reason why somebody can't go and get up-to-date bank statements and have them verified at a bank branch. So, you know, if somebody submits bank statements to us that are 4 or 5 months out of date, we just won't accept those, because the money in the account 4 or 5 months ago may not still be in the account when the application is lodged. So it's logical, it's rational that people applying for the visa apply with up-to-date documents. That's, you know, a fairly rational requirement that we'd have, and there's no inhibitor to that. Most people now have online banking. They can produce their statements at the touch of a button, and those bank statements can then be brought to a branch and stamped and verified then. So again, check and verify is an option, and we do recommend check and verify through VFS. It's an additional service, it's not mandatory, but we generally do recommend it because it will verify things like your bank statements, and that will tell us that you have the money in your account. The important thing is if you have multiple bank accounts, then obviously the one that you verify through check and verify should be the one with the most money in it. There's no point in verifying a bank statement with no money in it and then depending for sponsorship on a bank statement that has all the money in it. So if you are using the VFS check and verify, and as I said, we do recommend it, it's not mandatory, try to utilize the verification on the bank statement that has your primary amount of money.
Great. Just the last 2 questions now. If an application is rejected, what is the probability of applying again and it being successful?
Again, it just depends on. Sorry, 2 seconds. That just. This is why applicants need to apply early. In the event that they are refused and they want to go through the appeal process, then they need to build in time for that appeal process. This is the importance of getting your application right at the first time. Again, most of our applications for student visa, the vast majority are granted, so very few people actually go through this process. But if you are refused, the reasons for the refusal will be outlined on your refusal letter. If it is in relation to missing documents, then, you know, once those documents are supplied, that's fine. If there's inconsistencies in your application, once those inconsistencies are fully explained, then that's fine. We can accept it at the same time. We won't just keep refusing for the same reasons unless those reasons are valid and are not being addressed on subsequent applications. But you're entitled to make an appeal or entitled to make a reapplication as you wish.
Perfect. Just last question on showing financials. If someone shows an education loan for their tuition fee and the rest of the living expenses as done through a sponsor, would that work out for the application?
No, that's fine. We accept education loans and we accept sponsors. So again, once it's clear to us that the finances that you require for your application are available to you through education loans, through your own savings, through fixed deposits, through sponsorship, then we can accept that. There's no problem with that as well. As I said, it's up to the individual applicant to present their finances as they want, as long as they don't submit finances that we don't accept, such as crypto, mutual funds, market-linked funds, chit funds, things like that. So it is up to the applicant to decide upon what's the best way to present their information. And again, the financial summary form is a good way of trying to lay that out and inform us of how you're submitting your finances. But again, it always comes back to make things easy for yourself, make things less complicated, simplify things, and it will be simplified then for us. It'll make it easier for us to make a decision if it's not an extremely complicated financial arrangement that you're hoping on.
Thank you for answering everything I had to toward you, but I know a lot of this information is on the website, and I hope you were able to help all of you. As Barry mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, the PPT and recording will be shared to all those who registered and attended the session. So you will be able to access this even if you missed some portion of the event. And again, thank you very much, Cabra, and thank you for all your support and the visa office.
Yeah, and just a thank you to everyone who joined today. And
okay.